Indie Beacon Radio with host B Alan Bourgeois. Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Hi, and welcome to Indie Beacon Radio. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois, and today we have with us Fern Brady, who has written several books. She's also a publisher, but we're going to be talking about the books she has written over the years. Welcome, Fern. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Alan.
It's a pleasure. So let's start off with the basics. What got you into writing?
Well, so the thing about being a writer is that it's something that you can't really help because it starts in your head. You have these stories, you have these characters, you have these worlds that just play over and over in your head. And so you sort of have to write them down because otherwise you feel like you're going to just go crazy holding on to them. And so ever since I was a kid, I had these stories that would just pop into my head, these characters that would talk to me, and I would write them down. And sometimes I would act them out with my brother. He would put the music because he's a musician. And I would have them act out with some little puppets for my parents. I made them pay for the popcorn that they popped. So, you're a writer, you're born with stories in your head, and you just sort of have to put them on paper.
So obviously, some of these people finally did get out on paper, but that's not really how you started writing. I mean, so you have some short stories that you've written and stuff. So let's talk about the first short story that you actually wrote that got you into the actual writing of process. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the first story that ever got published is, I have actually two short stories in a collection called Eclectically Carnal. It's a collection of romantic, erotic, steamy tales. And it was born from a writer's retreat. And a whole bunch of us got together and we headed out to a lake house that a friend of ours had. And he ended up being the only guy there, poor darling. And so we ended up writing a lot of spicy romantic things just to watch him get blush, And so but as a result of that weekend, we ended up with these great stories, And so we started looking at the cost of writers' retreats, because I'd never been to one, and I realized just how powerful they were, and I realized how expensive they are. Generally speaking, they're really prohibitive. So we decided as a group that we would publish these short stories, and we would try to sell them in an anthology to try to fund and subsidize retreats and workshops and things like that for authors. And that's where actually Inklings Publishing got born, because that was its original intent, was sort of to publish anthologies and give authors opportunities for publication, and then sponsor writers retreats and other events for writers,
And you've done other anthologies, not just the ones through the writers group and the Inklings and stuff. You've done short story contests and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
How many short stories have you had published?
Oh gosh, a lot. You guys published Todd in volume 2 of your short story contest collection. I've had several that have been published through Writers Guild books. I had Spider Road Press that actually published a poem, which, I'm not a big poet, but they were doing a compilation of poetry by women. And so I submitted the one and only poem that I thought was worthy of being seen, and it got selected. So that was cool. I've got a lot of short stories actually out there. And that's really what I've had most of, other than my picture books. Right now, currently I don't have like a novel that is published. I have the short stories, and then I have the picture books for kids.
Right. And so before we go on to the picture books, and I just lost my track of thought. So we'll go on to the picture books.
Okay.
So the first one was Smiley. So tell us about Smiley and how that came about.
Well, Smiley Face Platoon has an interesting history because so some time ago, my mom, for my birthday, gave me a big mylar smiley face yellow bright balloon. But unlike most parents who would put helium in it and give it to you, you know, fully inflated, she actually gave it to me in its package, unopened, because she didn't have time to run by and get it filled with air, and she wanted to give it to me on my birthday. And so I thought it was kind of interesting, you know, getting a balloon from your parent without any helium in it. But I liked it. You know, when I opened it, it was so pretty. And I thought, well, I'm going to hold on to it. And so I put it back in its little package and I pasted it into my writer's notebook. And I, you know, forgot all about it. And then years later, I was in charge of monitoring a hallway during testing season. And it was a really boring job. So I was sitting there looking through my writer's notebook, and there it was. And so I took it out, and I saw it, and I thought of my mom, you know, and how awesome she is. And I started thinking about balloons and about the fact that, you know, they often float off into the sky. And I think it's human nature to wonder what they saw and where they went, right? And so I started having this poem come into my head of these platoons, right, of balloons that go up into the air and they go around the world and they visit Santa Claus and they see, you know, hot air balloons in France, and they go to Arabia, and then, you know, Rio de Janeiro. I mean, they party all over the world, and then they come back home and they float down to their town. And that's where it was born, you know, just from the inspiration of this gift that my mom randomly gave me, you know, in the weirdest way, unfilled balloon that I managed to keep because it was unfilled.
It's always interesting how certain stories can come about from that. And yeah, I'm curious as to why your mom just gave you an empty balloon. I mean, she bought it, left it in the package, and gave it to you. What was the reason for that?
Yeah, I think her reasoning was she just kind of ran out of time. She was going to go and get it filled, but, you know, she didn't have time, but she saw it, and, you know, she thought it's cute and she's going to be happy to see it on her birthday. But in a way it was fortuitous, because, you know, if she had filled it, more than likely, you know, eventually it would have lost its air and it would have ended up in the trash, you know. But because she didn't, I actually kept it and I put it in my notebook. And so years later, you know, it inspired a story.
Now, your second picture book is about a dog. So tell us about that.
Yes, Picture Day Ella. So that one was inspired by a real dog, Ella. Ella was adopted by my brother. She was a lab shepherd mix, and I adopted her sister, her litter mate, Arwen. And, you know, several years, like, I think she was like 12, 13 already, so she was an older dog. She got cancer and she passed away. And I was looking through pictures of Ella, you know, just random pictures that we took as we lived our life with this beautiful dog that came into it. And I realized how photogenic she was. I mean, she was a very photogenic little dog. And, but she had a bad habit of moving right when you were going to snap a picture. And so a story began to form about, you know, hey, what if, you know, her dad, right, my brother, was going to bring her to my house and we were going to take a picture of her. And of course, you know, she has trouble taking the picture because she thinks she's giving you her best side and you're wanting her to sit straight. And so the book all is about how she goes through her photo shoot, and it becomes a very frustrated little lab. And so that's what we did. And we compiled it with like live photos of her that we had from when we enjoyed her life. And we realized eventually that, you know, these photos, no matter how much we tweaked them to put them through different software, it wasn't going to make them really print quality. They're blurry, some of them. So so I got Araceli Casas, who was the lady that illustrated Smiley, to illustrate it, so that we would have a better version for Ella, to honor Ella. And so that's going to actually be re-released this summer with Araceli's drawings.
Great. We're at a point where I'm going to take a break, let our sponsors do their thing. But when we get back, we'll be talking about what inspires you and about your new books coming out. All right?
Awesome.
The 5th annual Authors Marketing Event is coming to Granbury, Texas, July 24th through the 27th. Join us and learn from the professionals how to properly market and sell yourself and your books. Go to ame.authorsmarketingguild.com for all the details. That's ame.authorsmarketingguild.com.
I'm Rox Berkey.
And I'm Charles Brakefield. We're award-winning co-authors Brakefield and Berkey of the Enigma book series. There are 10 books in the series, with book number 11 planned for release in January 2020.
Each story has a central technology focus ranging from identity theft to cryptocurrency and now AI wars. These adult techno thrillers pit cyber good guys against cyber thugs across the darknet.
In our world, technology is today's weapon of choice. You can enjoy ebook format, paper, or Audible. We want your feedback.
Until the next story, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, hello there, my friends. My name is Randy James, independent voiceover producer in the Dallas, Texas area, available to write and record a 30-second commercial, much like the one you're hearing right now. It's a great way to help increase awareness and exposure to your book title. It's easy to do. Simply call me and we'll brainstorm on a few ideas, and in a few hours, I'll whip something up and send you a digital file ready to use. Remember, call or text me, Randy James, at 214-762-1942.
Hello, I am the author and poet Denise Bryson. I am the author of The Things That Cross My Mind, Love's Reality, both in book and audio form. I am also noted as one of the best poets of 2011. I have 2 new projects coming up. One is the Blinky series, where Blinky tells us all about our coins and our bills for our children. I also have a book coming out called Say Ye. It's quotes from Denise Bryson, just inspirational and that will help you along the way.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois, and we are talking with Fern Brady, who has several books that she's published and has also published for other people. So let's start with the creative flow. You had mentioned earlier about how voices in your head have to come out and talk and do their thing and get the stories out there and stuff. But I'm curious about all the stuff behind you. Are those things that inspire you like the balloon and Ella did?
Oh yes, oh yes. I mean, behind me, this is kind of my creative nook where I do most of my writing. And as you can see, there's Predator back here. There's Wonder Woman. Darth Vader's over here. I don't think you can see Darth, but he's over here. There, yeah, Darth, and of course my maps that are right behind me. These maps were made actually by Araceli. They're of Planet Jorn, and that's where the book takes place. The novel that's coming out in May, and so yes, I mean all these things in our world, these other arts that have been created by these amazing people, and writing, other pieces of writing by talented authors like Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, a little dark but really awesome and cool, and of course I love dragons, so I mean Game of Thrones and dragons, that was like awesome. Interesting story about Game of Thrones and dragons. My mother never thought dragons were good, right? According to her, they were like the devil. And then she got into Game of Thrones, and she loved the dragons in it, so she changed her mind about dragons. Yeah, and then she fell in love with Smaug, because she thinks that Smaug was like the ultimate dragon from The Hobbit. So, so now she's into dragons.
Okay.
but I have a little dragon back here, and they're my little companions. And you need, as a writer, you need a space that will allow you to flow, to be inspired by the things that you love, to have a beautiful view. Interestingly though, other authors don't need that. Other authors like it to be very kind of stark and still, and I don't know. I guess everybody has their own way. Mine is cluttered. I'm a clutter person.
And we all need inspiration from various sources, especially when they're talking to us. It helps to
Yep.
associate something to them. So that brings me up to that half-naked man in the back, Predator, I believe you call it.
Yeah.
So he is your inspiration for your romance?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's my inspiration for my warriors in my stories.
Okay.
Because when you look at the predator mythology, the way that their culture is written, it's a very cool mythology. It's one based on honor. You have to earn your way, kind of. You have to have a worthy opponent, right? And in order to be really truly a true warrior, and so they don't kill like the elderly, or the sick or the pregnant creatures. They seek an opponent that can fight back, right? That they can test themselves against, which is kind of a cool concept. I really like that idea. So that's one of the things that I have him there for, is kind of, he's the inspiration for my warrior class of beings in my world.
Okay. So speaking of the world, you have this new book that's coming out. You're looking to have it out in May. So tell us about it and what's it about.
So it's called United Vidden. It's going to be book 1 that chronicles the history of planet Jorn and how it rose in the intergalactic alliance to become one of the most important planets, and basically we start at the point where there are 2 nations in the planet, and they have a lady, right, Verena, who is going to be the heir to the throne on one, and Amiel is the heir on the other. And so, of course, in Amiel's mind, it means they must unite, right? I mean, perfect, right? Because, of course, he wants to marry Verena. But Verena has a different opinion of that, because she wants to be queen on her own, And so a lot of the story is really a romance between them. It's about how they come to terms with each other, how they come to terms with ruling together, because they do end up thrown together. And so it's kind of cool to see how they have such opposing viewpoints of how to rule, so they do have quite a ways to bridge before they can be happy, for now anyway.
So kind of the classic opposites attract.
Yes. And actually they attract very well, but it's difficult to navigate, right? It's difficult to navigate. And especially when you're adding to it the fact that they're both wanting to be the one in control. And they both want to make all the decisions. And they can't both make all the decisions. There has to be a way for them to come together to rule as a couple, And so it becomes quite a challenge, and especially because she really makes a horrible mistake, right in the beginning. And so she is kind of the protagonist that makes a really terrible choice at the beginning, and then has to figure out how to come back from that. And so it's really cool to watch her have to regain her people's trust, have to figure out how to maneuver with him. And so it's a really nice female character that, kind of comes into her own by the end of the book.
Now that's book 1. And so you have, as you said, a series, a trilogy. What are you looking for as far as when that one will be ready, and what kind of storyline are you looking at for that?
Well, so in this first one, it's really about them coming together. In the second one, we see the reason that they came together, which is that they're under attack. There's a power outside of their planet that is stirring up a group of people who have been maligned. And so they rise up to try to retake the planet, to try to attack them. And so they have to defend themselves, you know. And of course, through book 2, they have to figure out what's really behind this. You know, this isn't, as it would seem, just simply, oh, we decided that this was a propitious moment to attack you. You know, there's more to it. And so they begin to realize that there's a deeper plot. So in book 2, it's more of that aspect of it. And we see them having to make decisions together, you know. And of course, and then in book 3, you know, it's the ultimate battle. The real dark villain comes out, right? All the real reason why these threats were being brought about happens. And you get to see, as we go through the novels, you start on planet Jorn and you kind of know that there's a universe around it of other planets and beings. And then in book 2 and 3, you get to start seeing more of it. You get to see the Alliance Council. You get to see some of the other planets that are involved in these power struggles, you know, that are affecting this one planet. So I'm very into political stuff, and I love writing power struggles and politics. So it's a very kind of political book. But each of them is really about their relationship. You know, it's about how Verena and Amiel manage their relationship through all these political things.
So based on what you've said, I'm going to assume that you have really gone through and outlined the entire series before you actually got into writing. Is that about right?
Well, I'm not a big outliner. I'm more of a pantser. But I have a basic chart of what the overarching issues are and how they're going to play out. Now, as I write, things sort of come about and they arise. Like, for example, I have a novella that I just finished that brought about a whole character that ends up being, what happens in that novella is actually something that happens before book 1. And so he's going to be important as book 2 and 3 come out. And I didn't even know he existed until he came about, you know? So now I'm having to tweak, okay, wait a minute, this dude that suddenly appeared, how does he fit into the big arc, right? And so there's a general plan, but it gets redone as we go along, because new voices come along and go, hey, I'm over here. And,
Yeah.
you know, and then you have to figure out what to do with those people.
Yeah, sometimes they're good about saying, well, you know, I belong here because this is going to happen. Sometimes they're just like, no, you got to rethink it. So,
Yep.
yeah, I fully get that. We are at a point where we do need to take a break and let our sponsors do their thing, and we'll be right back.
Thank you for watching or listening to Indie Beacon Radio. Our sponsor, IndieLector.store, is the only bookstore that pays authors their fair share for book sales. Help authors to succeed and enjoy a great book by supporting them at IndieLector.store. Enjoy a 10% discount with coupon code SHOPPER20 at IndieLector.store. Coupon valid until December 31st, 2020. That's IndieLector.store, coupon code SHOPPER20.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lector, Amazon, and all local and national outlets.
We Fiction is a fun, fast-paced writing contest for any author team to create a book based on what readers submit for plot, characters, locations, and even plot twists. Learn more about this unique contest at wefiction.dearindie.org.
Authors Marketing Guild is a membership-owned organization designed to help authors succeed and learn how to better market and sell themselves and their books. Join us at authorsmarketingguild.com and receive so many benefits you'll wonder why you didn't join sooner. That's authorsmarketingguild.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois, and I have with me Fern Brady, who's been talking about her newest book coming out. And it's an interesting name, so I want you to say it again.
Yes, so it's called United Vidden, and it's Vidden is the continent on planet Jorn, where Verena's family has part of the continent, rules part of the continent, and Emil's family rules the other part. And so basically by the end of the book, because they do come together, spoiler alert, but how is what's interesting, it becomes a united continent, right? So it's a united Vidden is the first book.
Okay. Now, the obvious question, you're hoping to have this out in May and stuff. So how can people find out about when the pre-sale's going on, how to sign up for the newsletter, get more information, all that stuff? Tell us how they can reach out to you.
Well, the best way to do so is if they go to inklingspublishing.com. That's the publisher. And if you sign up for their newsletter, then the release dates and things will come through. Also, if they go to fernbrady.com, that's my author website. And, I'll be putting out information about that. I'll be releasing, kind of a cover reveal party and things like that they can hook up to. They can follow me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well. So, if you go to fernbrady.com, that's probably the best way to follow me as a writer, as an author.
Okay. So when these three are done, do you have other story ideas in the back of your mind that are wanting to come out?
God, yes. It's terrible. So I already have this, I have the novella that is kind of a prequel. Okay, so that's a little romance trilogy, little mini trilogy that's happening over there. And then I have this other novella that's sort of a bridge between the last book in this series and the book of the next series. Because the next series is called The Forging Wars. And the Forging Wars are all about Verena and Emil's son and their kids. And now they're in charge. And then after that, I already have stories going on with Orlik, who is their grandkid. So yes, there is no end to this universe. I thought Orlik would be the end, and then I found out he has kids. So God, these people, they keep having kids.
So you have quite a future ahead of you.
Yes, and that's kind of what happens. As a writer, you develop all these people, and once you have a universe of beings that you've created, there is no end. I mean, there's all these minor characters who go on these quests, and there's all these people trying to vie for attention. And I'm currently writing a story with a couple other authors. There's 5 of us writing this amalgamated story where we threw in all our characters to see what would happen. So that's exciting and fun, So there is no end to creativity when you have worlds in your head.
Okay. Excuse me, we have just about a minute left. So I always ask authors to give one thing of advice that they would want to share with a new writer or someone who's interested in becoming a published author.
Well, the most important thing that I would say is don't ask anyone if your work is worthy, because no one's qualified to make that judgment. You are a writer because you have stories in you. Okay. Now, can you make it better? Can you find people to help you polish it up and make it awesome? Sure. Nobody's work is perfect the first time it comes out. Don't ever ask that question of anybody. Your work is worthy because it's in you. If the story's in you and it wants to come out, you are an author, and you don't need anybody else's blessing.
Wonderful. Well, that's a perfect place to end this show, and I thank you very much. We wish you the best of luck, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website.
Indie Beacon Radio with the host, B Alan Bourgeois. Indie Beacon Radio is produced by B Alan Bourgeois for Authors Marketing Guild LLC, copyright 2020. Voiceover by Randy James, Lydia Bello, and B Alan Bourgeois. To be a sponsor of the show or for more information, please email us at info@authorsmarketingguild.com. To be interviewed for the show, please complete the form at radio.authorsmarketingguild.com. Music Always Rejoice by Ramcord.